Welcome back to Signal versus the Noise, where we take a look at unusual options trading activity and ask whether the tape is pointing towards confidence, good positioning, or something else beneath the surface. Today's topic is Eli Lilly, the GLP-1 obesity drug market, and the growing number of questions surrounding the timing of certain trades by your favorite President Trump's latest financial filing. Because once you lay out the sequencing of events, the timing becomes difficult to ignore. According to the disclosure, there were 7 separate Eli Lilly purchases between January and March, totaling roughly $680,000. The first purchase happened on January 6th when he purchased around $100,000 of stock. Then on February 10th, there was also the purchase of West Pharmaceutical Services, somewhere between $250K and $500K. And West matters because the company manufactures ingestible drug delivery system and has repeatedly identified the GLP-1 demand as one of its major growth drivers. So immediately we have now 2 positions tied directly to the same underlying macro thesis: obesity drugs. So let's take a look at this timing now. The first Eli Lilly purchase happened on January 6th. 2 days later, on January 8th, was the Medicare application deadline for the Balanced Pilot Program, a proposal involving roughly $50 per month GLP-1 coverage through Medicare. Lilly submitted its application and was later identified as a participating manufacturer. So this matters because Medicare coverage is viewed as one of the biggest unlocks for the obesity drug market. Right now, according to market research, penetration rates remain relatively low. Roughly 12% of U.S. adults have used GLP-1 drugs by late 25 because affordability is one of the biggest hurdles. More than half the users likewise reported difficulty in affording the drug. So if we do see expanded Medicare coverage in a meaningful way, the addressable market, the total addressable market for GLP-1s changes dramatically. And then we have the February purchase. The FDA intensified its crackdown on compounded GLP-1 alternatives. Those lower cost substitutes have become one of the biggest threats to Lilly's pricing power. We saw this with HIMS, for example. But the crackdown removed a major competitive pressure point, directly benefiting branded manufacturers like Eli Lilly. And at the same time, Trump RX, that launched, directing patients towards Lilly's Zepbound products at $299 per month through Lilly Direct. And then we get to April. There's another one. The FDA approves Lilly's obesity drug Foundayo in just 50 days through the National Priority Voucher Program, reportedly the fastest obesity drug approval in FDA history. And throughout this entire sequence, the Eli Lilly position that President Trump took was in place. So take a step back and look what happened fundamentally. Eli generated roughly $65 billion in 2025 revenue, up $20 billion year over year. Management guided 2026 revenue between $80 and $83 billion, comfortably above the consensus expectations. We do see industry followers, these analysts like TD Cowen specifically noting that guidance appeared to anticipate Medicare obesity coverage by July 1st of this year. But there are competitors in the space behaving a little bit differently. At the same time, Novo Nordisk guided down 5 to 13% for 2026, despite operating in the same exact broad GLP-1 environment. So it's the same industry, it's the same macro backdrop. It's a totally different trajectory for the company's balance sheet and their earnings moving forward. And markets have largely attributed this divergence to the exact sequence that we just walked through here: Medicare expansion potential, compounded drug enforcement, direct-to-consumer distribution advantage, and accelerated regulatory approval here in the United States. So as we said in our previous video about Trump's trades, the filing itself includes defensible reasons against the implications that these were directly managed trades by the president himself. 4 of the 7 Eli Lilly purchases were marked as unsolicited, meaning brokers initiated rather than being directed by the account holder. The Trump organization has stated repeatedly that independent brokers manage the accounts and family members have not been directing specific direct investments. We had Eric Trump out a few days ago on May 15th saying that any suggestions that family members are controlling individual stock purchases were a lie. But this is where the broader market conversation becomes uncomfortable still. You know what? Let's have Jim Cramer explain it to us.
Yeah. Citi today takes it to 130.
Yeah, but the president, the U.S. government got in. He could sell it and
yes,
give that
and
the
according
number.
to the filings, the president's been trading some Intel in the quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, trade.
You got nothing to say about it?
Well, Yeah.
All right, don't worry. We're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we got to go.
Obviously, that was about Intel, but there's a pattern and sequencing emerging here that's making folks even like Jim Cramer uncomfortable. The sequencing here is extremely precise. If it's been Intel, if it's been Eli Lilly, if it's been something like Palantir. The same disclosure included Palantir's purchases ahead of $1 billion government contract, Nvidia purchases ahead of favorable China chip export decisions and partnership announcements, Axon purchases ahead of DHS-related employment activity, and Robinhood exposure, while the administration has advanced retail investing initiatives to so-called Trump accounts. The Palantir sequence deserves another look, though, because we see these purchases in January, the major DHS and Pentagon contract wins in February, large Palantir sales near the highs before the war, then additional purchases after the March drawdown once the war begins. And after rebuilding the position in Palantir, Trump publicly posted on Truth Social praising Palantir's war-fighting capabilities, and the stock immediately spiked that day. So again, not implying any automatic wrongdoing here, but when you see enough of these sequences appearing in the same disclosure, markets are going to naturally start asking questions. Whether or not this reflects insight, confidence, favorable timing, or access to information which appears unavailable to ordinary traders and investors. Which brings us back to the topic of this conversation, Eli Lilly. The broader signal here is not necessarily a bullish healthcare or biotech trade. We know that the GLP-1 market has become one of the most politically important growth industries in America. Between Medicare coverage, FDA enforcement, direct-to-consumer infrastructure, and obesity treatment economics, they are now all directly intersecting with public policy and perhaps even day trading. If the Medicare coverage expands meaningfully, the market opportunity becomes enormous for these companies. The global GLP-1 market is already expected to reach roughly $58 billion by 2026 later this year, potentially more than $130 billion by 2035. And we don't even see the penetration rates get that high in senior groups, for example, where you have higher rates of diabetes. So for today's Signal versus Noise, this really isn't about whether or not Eli Lilly has a powerful business story here. That's already obvious. I say that as someone who's owned Eli Lilly for almost a decade now. The real question is whether or not the sequencing surrounding these trades reflects unusually good positioning around policy developments, or whether the pattern, like with the oil futures trading, is becoming too consistent for markets to dismiss comfortably. So that's Eli Lilly. That's the GLP-1s. That's Signal versus Noise for today. Let us know in the comments below. Another coincidence? Thanks for watching Tasty Live. Like and subscribe for more videos.